I was like, wait a week. I'm taking my test next week. And he was like, well, we found the house we want and we don't want to miss out on it. They said, bro, I'm taking my test next week. He's like, okay, are you going to pass? So the next week came and I failed.
Welcome to The Real Look. So, g'day, Jordan. Where does today's podcast find you?
Well, I'm right here at the Yakima location, Keller Williams Yakima location, right here downstairs in the basement, actually. My favorite spot to come.
You're
And
in the
do some
training
good
room,
things.
right? Which is
Yes, in the
a cool
training room.
place.
Yes.
Well, so Jordan, let me ask, we all have a story, right? We have a life before we got into real estate. So give me a little bit of your background. What was your journey?
Wow. Oh, man. So I have quite the journey. I'm born and raised in Omak, Washington, which is a small town, north central Washington. And I moved to Yakima 13 years ago. I was 21 years old and I moved to Yakima with a friend, not knowing that I was going to stay. I honestly, I moved, his roommate moved out. I moved in, and for the weekend, I was just coming to hang out, and his roommate moved out. And then his other roommate was like, hey, my job is hiring. So I went and I got a job there, and I ended up staying in Yakima, going to school at YVC, becoming a bartender at a Red Robin for, I think, 8 years or something like that. But I mean, I don't know if you want me to get what has brought me to Yakima, because it's kind of deep.
Well, let me ask you this. So you started out bartending at Red Robin. Did you come from there to real estate?
So what had happened is I was bartending at Red Robin for, I believe, well, I moved here in 2012, 2013, I started working there. In 2020, during the COVID, they were laying people off. And I was there for 8 years already. So they weren't gonna cut my hours. But a friend of mine was doing construction, and he said, he's a mentor of mine that I use till this day. And he pretty much was like, you can work with me, and that way they don't have to cut someone's hours. You can give it to someone else. And I did that, and I started working construction right during COVID. And I was working my tail off for about as much as I was making at Red Robin bartending. I didn't really like it. And I think like the year later, I did that for a year. And a year later, another bartender, an owner of a restaurant in Sela, Rich, another mentor of mine, now new mentor of mine, called me and asked if I would be able to bartend at his restaurant. And that's when I met, I don't know, I didn't meet Haley, but Haley and Molly from Keller Williams came in, and I was serving them. And Molly, I didn't know her, and she was like, you would be great in real estate. And Haley was like, pretty much like, I've been telling him that for years. And I was like, really? And they were like, you know what? We're not going to say anymore. Just come have lunch with us tomorrow on us. And I went and had lunch with them the next day, I believe, at the Waterfire restaurant down the street. And they told me about the program that Keller Williams offers. I signed up for it like that day. I didn't finish it. I got complacent. I got comfortable with bartending. I didn't finish it for another couple years. And then I bought my own house, and it resurfaced again, the idea. And I reached out to Haley and Tracy here, and they set me right back up. And I just told myself, finish the school, finish it no matter what. And that was this year, beginning of this year. And then I finally finished, I think in June is when I got licensed.
Okay, so you've been licensed since June of 2025. Congratulations, because my understanding is you're a capper now.
I just capped. Yeah.
Just capped, which, by the way, for people who don't understand what that means that you've paid in the total amount of company dollars. So now for the rest of your anniversary year, you will be at 100% commission.
Yes.
So now it's time to go make hay. So,
That's what I'm talking.
you know what? The reason I wanted to have this conversation with you, Jordan, is that this doesn't happen for everybody, right? To get into the business and get your feet under you quickly and start to sell real estate. Because I think about my own journey. It was 9 months before I sold my first house. And I was waiting tables in a restaurant at night to make ends meet so that I could make it happen. So I feel you. Now, so tell me, you get your license in June. What happened then? What how did you get business?
Oh, I got pretty lucky. I told a friend of mine that I was almost done with, my real estate school, and he was like, "Oh, really? We were looking to refinance our house." And he went and he seen a lender that I had already created a relationship with by buying my house. And I was like, "Well, here's the lender I used when I bought my house. Why don't you talk to him?" And he did. And he called me back and he was like, "I think we're gonna buy a new house instead of refinancing." And I was like, "That's awesome." I was like, "Wait a week. I'm taking my test next week." And he was like, "Well, we found the house we want and we don't want to miss out on it." And I was like, this is like my good friend of mine. I said, "Bro, I'm taking my test next week." He's like, "Okay, are you gonna pass?" Because he sells insurance, so it's kind of the same process, right? So the next week came and I failed. And then he was like, "Dude, we have to hire somebody else." And I said, "Go ahead." You know what I mean? I don't want you to miss out on your house. I don't want me being the reason why you don't get something that you want, but I am taking the test again. And I took the test again, like the as soon as I possibly could. I passed it. And, right then and there, I listed his house like immediately, almost right when I was licensed. I got my license number through Olympia, signed with Keller Williams. All through that whole process, though, I was talking with Haley, with Tracy, with a mentor of mine here, Jordan Hemp, and saying, "How do I do this?" Right? Because I'm literally days in. I don't even know what I'm doing. So they're helping me walk through this. And that was my first two because then I sold it. I listed his house, sold it in 3 days, I think. He got an offer. And then he bought his current house that he's in. And that's so there's two that I walked into.
Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe and join us as we continue to build careers worth having, businesses worth owning, and lives worth living.